Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Yeah. I'm sick of abusive, narcissistic relationships. Sick of emotional trips. Sick of the lies that roll off your lips. Play me like some type of script. Gaslight me to keep me in grips. Time to cut ties and quit with the snip. Ready to get on the path of toxic recovery. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. You said it was love and all of the above, but you wanna suffer, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. You said it was love and all of the above, but you wanna suffer. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Yeah.
Disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and I often refer to toxic narcissists and general abusers as delusional, crazy, and mentally unstable. A, because if anyone should be described as this, it's these types. And B, because when we're in these toxic, narcissistic, or generally abusive dynamics, we often give their behaviour far too much respect, which keeps us in the cycle for longer. It is my hope that my mocking of their behaviour encourages you to take that respect away. Now, if you've been diagnosed with a general mental health condition, please know that at no point am I mocking or talking about you. I consider that to be a separate issue that I take very seriously. And with that being said, let's get into it. Okay then, hey guys. So today we're going to be talking about Tyra Banks and that shocking documentary. What is it called? Reality Check? Doesn't sound like she got one. It literally sounds, from what I've seen, it seems as though she is not with us in this reality. However, we're going to talk about it because, there's been a lot going around. A lot of people dragging Tyra from left to right and from right to left. Good morning, I'm awake. Oh, good afternoon, she says. Good afternoon. Yeah, it's evening over here, but yeah. So yeah, she seems to have been dragged from pillar to post. But I wanted to have a different kind of conversation, although we're going to talk about it. Obviously, we're going to absolutely talk about it. I wanted to have a conversation about what this actually means, because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, she's like toxic, she doesn't care and all of that stuff. And then it made me think about, because don't get me wrong, I've never been a fan of Tyra. Never been a fan of Tyra at all. She's always come over to me as fake. I didn't dislike her, but she just every time I watched her, it just came over as disingenuous to me, and I find that irritating. I can't watch people that come over to me as disingenuous. So for me, it was always like, although I did watch America's Next Top Model because I liked the show, right? So that being said, all right, so let's talk about what transpired in this documentary. And I want to pose a question to you guys. We're going to have the discussion around, is it trauma? Or did I say of? No, I meant, is it trauma or narcissism? Narcissistic. Is she narcissistic or is it trauma? Because that's one of the things that a lot of us say when it comes to men. Okay, so when we see like red flags and stuff like that, we say, oh, no, but it's because he had this going on in his past and stuff like that. So I want to have that same conversation over here, but in relation to a woman. Okay, because a lot of you guys say, oh, you think about women differently, and I absolutely don't, actually. But this should hopefully show you that I actually don't. But I'm going to try and give her, I thought I would, because I know of my own personal bias against me never thinking she was genuine, I wanted to give her a fair trial, public trial. So I went and looked into her past, and turns out it's not that great. It's actually not great at all. She says that she was in an emotionally and psychologically abusive relationship. She doesn't say which one, but I can tell by the conversation and the clues that it's probably Eric, the one that she had the child with, the son. Now, they were together from 2013 to 2017, right? And she said that he would say, well, she didn't say it was him, right? Let's be clear. She said that the person who did this would say horrible things to her. They would be one way in the public eye and be very disparaging and all of that stuff. All the things that come with emotional and psychological abuse, right? Putting you down and stuff like that in private. Now, you got to bear in mind that if it was this guy, and let me explain to you why I think it's this guy in particular, because she says they broke up at least 15 times, right? And that is the only relationship, her and Eric was the only relationship where it is on record that they broke up 15 times. Already, whether it was him or not, that relationship was toxic, because you know how I feel about on and off relationships. Break up once, okay, but we should not be doing this on and off, up and down thing, because it creates a roller coaster. It creates that trauma bond, all right? Don't let the guy put you on a roller coaster. Don't let them get you on this up and down. We're on, we're off, we're up, we're left, we're right. Absolutely not. Just stop that roller coaster right mid-flow and just get off. Get off that ride, because you're going to end up in a situation where you are hooked to a situation or a person that you got no business being hooked to. Right. And that's the process. That is the nature of that up and down, round the houses, on and off type scenario. We've seen it here. She was with him for how many years? Going up and down, on and off. That's crazy. Crazy, right? And that's why I think it's him, because it's the only one where she had that on and off relationship with. Anyway, she says that it was, well, not that relationship, obviously, please. Correct me, because I keep saying it as always. It was definitely him, and I want to make sure that I'm making a distinction. But yeah, she said that the relationship that was emotionally abusive was with those things going on, right? That he was putting her down on all of that stuff. Now, if we combine that with the criticism she would have received being a model at such a young age, those two do not mesh well. That does not mesh well. That's trauma, trauma, trauma. The whole modeling industry is traumatic, right? And that's not just coming from, that's not just my opinion. I watched Fumi Deval, Fumi Nation. She's a big YouTuber out in these streets, and she's also a model, professional model, years in the game. And she describes it as a dog eat dog world. And Fumi is very, very positive about life. So if she says it's dog eat dog, it's dog eat dog eat dog eat dog. Right? It's dogs eating the dead dogs, right? It's that it's messy. It's just terrible, right? That is what's going on, because Fumi's she tries to be as positive as possible with her takes on things. And like I said, we read about modeling and stuff like that, and we hear all the horror stories. I'd like to take it from the horse's mouth, and she is one of the horse's mouths, right? So yeah, it's bad out there. So that being in that industry and then dealing with a person like that is not a very good combination. And also, she said in an interview that she felt like she couldn't be without this person. And Eric is a photographer in the fashion world. This would have been in her early days. If it was this guy, right, it would have been in her early days. So it would make sense that she would also feel as though she needed him in order to progress within the field of fashion, especially if he was, of course, if he's emotionally and psychologically abusive. He would have been holding it over her head, making her feel like she can't move on without him, making her feel like she made him type thing. If it was him, that's the type of thing that she would have been dealing with. So that's trauma upon trauma upon trauma upon trauma in that situation. So that's the backdrop of this situation. Let's read the comments. Okay. We can name so many things that start with good intentions and and to disrupt the system, that end up perpetuating the same system for being. But I have a theory about that being even worse. Is it the money, power, something else? Okay, I have a theory about that. We're jumping right in, right? Because, okay, she started America's Next Top Model because she wanted to make a difference within the industry. Key problem here. She had people that she was answering to. Once you have people that you are answering to, now we've got an issue. Those people have to be on the same wavelength. Have to be. They have to be. They can't be people who are in the industry or in the business and that's where I think this went left, right? Do I believe that she had good intentions? Let me just backtrack. Do I believe that she had good intentions? I believe she said that she had good intentions. Let's just put it like that, because I just don't think of her as a particularly genuine person. But we're going to take it as though she had good intentions and it got messed up along the way. If that is a scenario, it's believable, because at the end of the day, like I said, you cannot have industry people and you, because the industry people are taking your idea and thinking about how they can make as much money as possible from that idea. They don't care about your mission statement. They don't care about what you're trying to do. They don't care. And if you are answering to them, they are going to pull strings that are going to make you eventually let go of your own mission in order to keep the situation running. That is the way that's going to go. I don't blame the direction of America's Top Model, America's Next Top Model, on her solely, even though it was her baby. Because like I said, she had people above her in the industry. And though she does, don't get me wrong, she does push that responsibility onto them conveniently within the documentary where it blatantly does not apply. It does apply in relation to what they do with the show. She is the face, but the experts tell her what she's going to do with that show, essentially, right? And if the two ideas don't align, they don't care. They are the ones with the money. They're the ones that are putting in the investment. They are the channel that the show runs on. They don't care, right? So from that point of view, I'm like, okay, if you team up with the wrong people, your vision, your mission is going to die on the vine. And I feel like she went into the industry trying to break code within the industry, right? And I'm thinking as well that it could have as well been a bit of a heist in the situation, as in, oh, good idea, let's work with that. We're going to come, because how can I explain this? Sometimes people with power will do that. They will see that you've got the potential and the influence to make a change, and then get on that change and distort it whilst joining you on the change. Does that make sense? Because they can't stop you, essentially, in that. So, although they could have just not aired her show, right? So I guess they could stop her. But, rather than allow or take the chance of someone else taking you on, they would take you on and corrupt it instead. Does that make sense? So that could have been part of it. Could have been. I don't know. But I don't think it was all Tyra in regards to how the show went in terms of the messages that were fed through that show, right? They want more ratings, they want more drama. They're thinking about it from that point of view. She hooked up with a guy that was a specialist in reality TV. So he's going to be thinking about drama, and ratings. She is not an expert at any of that. She's going to have to go with what he's saying. Point blank period. That's what I think. Let's have a look. Next one. Is everyone covertly narcissistic? Are we all capable of this level of capable of this level of callousness? Yes, we are. We are. I think that there's a high level of narcissistic behavior in this world, especially in America. I just feel like Trump, we'll get to that in a minute. I just feel like there's a lot of it going around. I think society breeds that kind of way of thinking and that way of being. I feel like, and we all have the ability, given the right circumstances, we can all be in that way. Given the right circumstances for long enough, we can all be that way, which is one of the things that I'm always talking about, right? It's like you cannot exist within a toxic, narcissistic, or abusive dynamic without becoming toxic yourself. At some point, it's gonna happen. It's gonna kick in. I'm not gonna say become part of the problem, because the problem is always them, but you're gonna be fighting fire with fire at some point. And I see that in this situation. I don't want to give Tyra too much grace, but I see that in this situation as well. Because if you think about it, from a very young age, she's in the modeling industry. She's been told, she's been molded, she's been traumatized, she's been all the things, and she's still working within that industry. Well, she's on ice cream right now, right? And everyone's saying that she's crazy and wigging out. But, you know, your nervous system will be well dysregulated by the time you're her age, going through the system that she went through. I'm not surprised if she's a little kooky at this point. What was her challenge? What was her struggle that's challenging? I recall her mother constantly being there to protect her. No. So this makes what she did even worse because that's not what she went through. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, you're right. There was her mother always there to protect her, but was she always there to protect her? I'm sure when she was past the age of 18, her mother wasn't always there to protect her. 21, 23, at what age? You can be assaulted at any age. So, you know, we don't even know whether she was a target of assault from another person or as a result of that relationship that she was in, that was, you know, psychologically all the things. She said he never got physical. And that's that. So, for those of you who haven't watched the show, because we kind of just went straight into it, the documentary came out, Reality Check, talking about America's Next Top Model, all that stuff. And people were saying how the way that she behaved. And we're going to start with Jay Manuel, right? Jay and her were great friends. He describes it as them being best buddies, staying at each other's houses, yada, 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 right? Apparently, Jay decided, this is a bit of a gray area because on one hand, I'm like, okay, Jay, yeah, that sounds really toxic. And on the other hand, I'm just like, but Jay, what were you doing, right? I do believe, let me just say out the gate, that they're all as bad as each other in regards to the way that they behaved on that show. Now, Jay says that he wanted to get out of it. We'll get into that in a minute. But whilst he was actively a part of it and in it, before he tried to get out of it, he was acting in equally dysfunctional and disruptive and emotionally dysregulated ways with the models. So potato, do you know what I mean? Because when you listen to him in the documentary, he's like, oh, you know, this never really resonated with my spirit. I was always struggling with it, and blah 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 blah. Like, he volunteered disrespect to the models on numerous occasions, right? So from that point of view, I'm like, Jay, what are we doing, right? And Miss J was rude to them as well, but one of the influencers said that Miss J was able to be rude and funny, which is true. He was able to be rude and funny, whereas Jay was just rude. And I feel like she said on the documentary that they were basically the beginning of America's Next Top Model, right? She brought them on board at the beginning. She got the show because of Miss J and doing the walk, and so they were the beginning of everything. So Jay decides, I don't know, I can't remember which season, that he wants out, right? Mid-season. And he sends a email to Tyra. Oh my God, I'm just changing her name now. Bear with me. He sends an email to Tyra saying that he wants to leave the situation. And Tyra does not respond. In fact, not only does she not respond, she just gives him the silent treatment, 4 days. And then when she did respond, the only thing she said was that she was disappointed, right? And then he was threatened and told that basically if he didn't continue the season or something like that, that he will be blacklisted and from the industry. I believe it. Tyra doesn't seem like the type of person that's going to take it very well when she doesn't get what she wants. I believe that happened. But at the same time, I'm kind of like not excusing Tyra's behavior. She gave him the silent treatment, emotionally abusive. And the way in which she did it, she forced him to stay on the show and then punished him because then she wouldn't speak to him unless the camera was rolling. So she was giving him the silent treatment. She was making it very awkward, but insisting that he be there or else, you know, he was going to be blacklisted from the industry. That is a disgusting situation to put someone in. Highly emotionally abusive, disgusting situation to put somebody in. And that was not done on accident. That was not accidental. And there were a few other things that came up which were disgusting and in no way accidental. Very, very, very much intentional. So when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that was all you, Tyra. However, am I like, oh, am I thinking that she shouldn't have been upset? No. I'm thinking the way that she dealt with it was disgusting. It was abusive. 110% no excuses. And I'm not going to say but, because then that's kind of excusing it. How can I put this? Jay wanted to leave mid-season. That would have messed up everything within the cycle, and just basically dropping it on her. I don't know what led to him doing that, so I need more information really to go into it. But to think that she would have been upset about it, I think would have been understandable. Even as a friend to another friend, it's like, why would you do that to me type thing. I get it, but disgusting behavior on her part. Coercive control, emotionally abusive, hands down, right? Then we have the situation with Shandi Sullivan, the girl who was SA'd on set, but then it was reframed. This is another unforgivable situation as far as I'm concerned. Unforgivable situation. Now, I think the first thing I thought, and one of the influences that I have here actually goes into more detail about it. But the first thing I thought when I heard it was they're gaslighting her. Because let me tell you how it went. Tara tells the girls that, maybe they should get together with some guys and have some drinks, basically. We don't know whether it was Tyra. Somebody tells the girls this. Let me backtrack. We don't know that they were told to do this. Let me correct myself. Then, they drank a lot, she got really, really, really drunk. Then, boy does she's blackout drunk. So there's no consent to be had in this situation. Right. And then it turns into her cheating. The focus becomes her cheating on her boyfriend rather than what it was, which was SA. Now, I'm going to put a little caveat on this. Not defending Tyra, she's not my favorite person, right? Not my favorite person. However, we've got to consider the time as to how this was viewed, not how it was dealt with, because the dealing of the situation was absolutely disgusting and inexcusable. But we've got to take into consideration that it is not 2025. We're not even 20. We're 2026 now. My gosh, it's not 2026. So SA isn't viewed the way that it is now. In fact, we struggle to view it the way that it is now, even today, right? Consent is still blurry. Depending on who's talking about it, right? Depending on who's accusing, but stuff like that. We did not understand back then SA in the way that we do now. So we've got to bear that in mind. So the fact that she was blackout drunk back then would not automatically equal SA in the minds and the cultures back then. This is what I'm thinking. This is the way that I'm thinking about it, right? Not excusing it, but it wouldn't have come over like that. It wouldn't have, like 2026, absolutely. We could say, yeah, blackout drunk, that no consent was given, couldn't possibly, it's SA, right? But we've got to look at it from the framework of the time. Now, Shandi was very upset about the situation, very confused about the situation. She said that she didn't want it to happen at all. However, this is a bit of a gray area too, because didn't want it to happen as in she didn't want to cheat. I'm not sure whether she felt as though she cheated on him or whether she told them that it was SA and she didn't want it and then they spun it. I'm not sure about how that went. I understand now that she understands that it was SA. I'm not sure then if she understood that it was SA, or whether she vocalized that it was SA. Guys, give me a read on that. Did she vocalize at the time that it was SA? Not minor, but underage. Mind you, they were abroad, were drinking, age is lower. Yeah, exactly. So they were abroad. You can drink at what is it? You can drink at 16 in the UK. Right? So, you know, oh, eight. Wait, hang on. Let me get it right. I think you can drink at 16 in the UK. I wasn't much of a drinker back in those days. What is the legal age for drinking? It could be 18 because I know you guys in the US are 21. In the UK, is it 16 or 18? 18. Must be 18. Okay, 16 and 17 years old, you may drink, but in order to actually buy alcohol in the UK, you got to be 18 plus. Okay, got it. That was my confusion. All right. So let's find out if she told them. Did she actually tell them? Did Shandy tell Tyra she was essayed at the time? I heard it, but I didn't. I feel like I heard it, but I can't be sure. So I just want to clarify. I know that she felt a lot of confusion and a lot of distress. You're referring to da-da-da-da-da. There has been discussions over the years about whether Shandy told Tyra during the filming, the previous, from what has been publicly shown and discussed on the show itself, Shandy did talk about having a difficult past, including abuse and trauma in her own past. Okay. On the show. However, there's no confirmed public record or episode footage showing her explicitly telling Tyra on camera. I just want to know off camera, because obviously nothing was told on camera because, you know, they were spinning it as cheating. That she had been essayed at a specific time in the way people sometimes refer. Okay. In later interviews, years after the show, Shandy has spoken more openly about reality TV, So basically, there's no confirmation as to whether she told her at the time that it was SA. From my understanding, she was not. They weren't told that it was SA. And you might be thinking, well, why would they need to be told? We got to consider the time. At the time, it was, oh, they got drunk, something happened, oh, well, let's move on, right? Type thing. Consent was not as much of a thing back then as it is now. Again, I'm not excusing Tyra, because we're going to go into what she did was absolutely disgusting. But if we're viewing it from the lens of the time, we got to go back there, right? We got to consider what was considered at that time. You got to understand that those who were watching it was SA. Let me be clear. It was SA. Let me be clear. It was SA. However, at that time, it would have been more, oh, this is an effed up situation. Oh, yeah, this doesn't make me feel good. Oh, this doesn't feel like a good thing that should be happening at this moment. But, oh, it's TV. It was probably more like that, right? Let's have a look at these comments. No, minor and a. She didn't have the vocabulary to explain that it was SA. Now she does. Exactly. Absolutely. I agree. And you wouldn't have had, because you just would have known. She would have felt in her spirit, in her soul, that it was a violation. right? That's how she would have felt, but she wouldn't have had the words. Not like now. Nowadays, we have the words to confirm it wasn't consensual, this, that, and the other. But then she wouldn't have had the words. You're right. Ken, a Leo, exactly. 110%. I agree. But it was SA, right? Now, how do I... My issue was, if we're looking at it through the lens of then and not now, we can't be outraged that they filmed an SA, because they are not thinking about it as SA. They're thinking about it as good TV. Like 2026, that's the situation, right? I feel like, but in saying that, I did say that I felt like she was gaslit a lot. And because it was very much on purpose. Or maybe I need to change that, because I feel like she was gaslit a lot, but then we've got to understand that they were also making a show. So they're always, reality TV is always creating narratives, right? So that was a narrative that they gave. She cheated. The girl who cheated, that was a narrative that they gave to that to make it more sensationalized, right? So it was gaslighting in its effect, but can I say that that was intentionally done? I can't. But what I can say she intentionally done was expose her to the experience again. And what I can say was intentionally done was the insensitivity at which that situation was treated. She was obviously very upset about it. She didn't want to look at the footage, yet Tyra called her onto a show and made her watch the footage. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Right? And I understand good TV and all of that, but you understand that she has a history of trauma in her past and all of these things. Why? From one human being to another human being, would you do that? Whether you understand where it was SA or not, why would you, you know? But then again, I'm not going to say then again. No, full stop. There's a part of me that thinks that Tyra's experience of the world and her own trauma has made her quite numb to certain situations, the actual situations and stuff like that, because they all very much seem to be, because here's the thing, I excuse that whole situation right there, but then we have to take into account what happened with the other lady who was modeling, right? The other lady who was modeling, they didn't take kindly to any kind of SA. They were not sensitive to women in that field around SA at all. It was very dismissive, because the other model who was on set called out one of the guys for touching her inappropriately when she was trying to model, and she got the stick of that. She got the brunt of that. She was told to basically suck it up, make it work. And even though she got the brunt of that, I feel, again, it was a reflection of the time. I'm sounding like Tyra right now when I'm talking it through. But again, it was a reflection of the time. And rather than saying, oh, sweetheart, I know that's rough, you know, that should not have happened, Tara basically was like, if you're going to be a model, this is it. This is the situation. You cannot stop shoots because you're being touched inappropriately. Right? So you got to look at it through that lens. If you're looking at the 2026 lens, yeah, they're cooked. They're all cooked. Every single one of them, right? But you've got to look at it through the lens of the time. And what she was trying to do in that moment, speaking to that model who basically stopped the photo shoot because the guy was touching her, Jay Manuel had no sympathy for her. Nigel had no sympathy for her. At at the time were just like, okay, let's keep, what are we doing? We're trying to do a shoot here. What are you talking about? It was very much that attitude. But now in 2026, they're all like, well, you know, I didn't know anything about anything. Like, come on, guys. You knew. The whole crew knew and were in on the everything that was going on with them, especially if they were friends. If Tyra was like not a friend of theirs and they were working amongst each other, then I could be like, okay, maybe they didn't know, but they were all friends. Can you tell me on what universe you were working with your friends and you're not sharing information about what's going on? On what planet does that happen? They were all very good friends. Impossible. To me, you're in on it. You're all in on it. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the time that the lady who they basically fat shamed a lot was touched basically inappropriately. She called it out. She basically was given no grace, no comfort in the situation, and Tara just basically told her to suck it up. But like I said, given the time, that would have been the best course of action. Because otherwise it's, well, you're not cut out to be a model because this is what men do over here. Okay, they're always trying to do some, because let's face it, like, it's when you're going into, and I wrote something about this earlier about going into certain fields where the power dynamic is not going to be in your favor. You are the one with no money, you're the one with no power as to how things go. When you're in those type of situations, it breeds for exploitation. So you're saying you want to be a model, it means you are going to be in a position where you are going to be exploited. That is part of the, and that's not to say it's okay. And maybe things have cleaned up a little bit today, but that is the dynamic that's going on. You're going to be in a situation where you are vulnerable. Okay. So she was saying, laugh it off, do this, do that, try to just keep everybody happy and then hopefully get out of there in one piece. It's basically what she said. Is that good advice? No, but she's talking about it from her own experience. So that's basically the advice that she gave. So the essay situation is essay today, and they should be shot at dawn today. Back then, young people, drunk, things went a bit too far. I can see how the cheating situation got to be the cheating situation without an intentional malice, right? Because if you're combining reality TV and drama and that, how could they not show that? Because that's drama. Again, I'm not saying that they should have shown it. I'm just saying, based on the times, based on the viewpoints, based on the industry that they're in. But then again, she did, but then I have to call you out, Tara, because you did suggest that maybe you should bring some boys around. So you wanted something to happen. You wanted something to happen. You set up that situation. The girls didn't set that up for themselves. And that is where I have to say, no. Right? You know, this is why I have to ask questions, because you know, I just spoke about the industry, her knowing the industry, it being inappropriate, people, women being vulnerable. You know that. So then why would you tell the girls to, okay, she didn't tell them, whoever, why did they tell them to bring the guys around? That was probably suggested by Ken, who is getting the light end of the stick, by the way. I feel like Tara is the one being dragged when the people who were really calling the shots monetarily wise was Ken, the reality person, the reality expert. He would have been the one that would have been like, oh, you know, get the guys round, suggesting things to make it a little bit more spicy so that they would have more narratives, more things to talk about, more things to show on the show. He would have been the one pushing that. Right? From the model aspect of things, I think that was all Tyra. Her telling them they need to be like this and that and that. I feel like how she came across was a combination of the time, which a lot of people were saying, and her just being ruthless because that's the way that she's been kind of like trained and conditioned into based on her own experience, right? I feel like that combination was not a good combination, or maybe was a good combination because hey, she got the show, but wasn't a good combination in regards to what other people experienced as a result of her. Shandi, I don't think when she said on the documentary, we didn't know, boo boo, we didn't know. I can see where she's coming from. Do I think that she's genuine in I don't believe that she thought it was SA because a lot of people today struggle with SA not being blatantly violent. A lot of Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that, guys. The internet just went kaput completely. Just had to go and work that out. Okay, where were we? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do this all over again. I cannot even believe that. Oh God, I just had the whole thing. Let's not complain. Let's just get on with it. All right, so we had this. What were we talking about? The essay situation. And then I was saying something about, oh God, what was I saying? The insensitivity of the situation. Harlem says, I agree with that. Tyra seems very numb due to her own trauma. I think so. And trauma will do that. Trauma can very much disconnect you from your own emotions. Very much do this, right? Especially when you're in it, but definitely can continue after the fact. You become go out from that situation until you feel you're in an emotionally safe space. Now, clearly, she has not found that safe space. And she's been in the industry for years, so it's not surprising she hasn't found that safe space. I can't remember what I was talking about for the life of me, so hopefully it'll come back to me at some stage and we can go back to it. But we were still talking about Shandy in that situation and saying that, you know, they were basically telling them to, but yeah, I was saying how it was inappropriate. Why didn't she, knowing the industry, she knows the industry. So why didn't she, knowing the industry, protect them from certain situations? As in, instead of encouraging the drinking, protecting them from that situation entirely, right? And making them aware of industry things such as that. But on the other hand, you got to think reality TV is not her forte. So in that, not excusing her too much, it would have been Ken that would have been pushing those storylines and pushing to set things up in the way that things were set up. Because they were set up. The drinking thing was set up for that to happen. They do it on Love is Blind today. They do it on a lot of reality TV shows. They get people drinking so that they can see and film the drama. So that's what happened in that situation. And I'm not sure whether Tyra was in a position where she could actually protect them from that and not be in the way of Ken, if that makes any sense. So, you know, you have to pick your battles in that kind of situation. You were talking about the role of Ken in things. Yeah, I think that Ken played a greater role in things playing out the way that they did. Anyway, a greater role than what was said by anybody. And the disconnection in the way that she spoke about things makes me wonder what they told her the show was going to be about, right? Because I'm like, did you tell her? Well, yeah, we didn't know. Sorry, we didn't know. Yeah. So, okay. So there's confirmation there that you would have told her. But I just feel like she was kind of set up as well. I just don't feel like she got all the information about how that show was going to play out. I feel like they wrote the narrative so that she would come over disconnected, deranged, and narcissistic. Right? I feel like that it was pushing in that direction. Do I think she's disconnected and narcissistic? Yes, I do. But I feel like they set her up to look like that because it disconnects and narcissistic. That's right. I feel like of that was the narrative that was set up for her. She was going to be the person that everybody hates. Now, Danielle, the woman who won seasons of America's Next Top Model, had a gap in her tooth, argument over her telling her to close her gap and, you know, being firm about it and forcing her into it. She didn't want to do it. And they said, basically, if you don't do it, you're going to be sent home, which is coercive control, 110%. Was it inappropriate? Was it crossing the line? Absolutely. Was it the industry? Again, absolutely. As Fumi Duval said, she had a gap in her tooth as well. It was closed for the sake of working in the industry. She too closed her own gap. So whilst it's been spun as though Tyra was being spiteful and just having things her own way and wanting to do whatever she wanted to do and then contradicting herself, I believe what she said about the people higher up telling her, listen, this isn't going to work out. This is not a realistic reflection of the industry. She's not going to make it. You need to be more like X, Y, and Z. I believe that because Fumi herself has physically closed her own gap as a model in the profession in order to get work. Now, there's the argument that the other woman, who was a white lady, didn't have a gap, and they told her to open her gap or create a gap because it would look cool. And some people are saying, well, you know, that's a total contradiction. Why would you say that when it was this the other time and that the other time? Because it's fashion and things change, right? Again, not defending it. The whole thing is toxic. The whole environment is toxic. Coercive, we're talking coercive control, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. This is the world that you are working within. I'm not defending it in any way. Let's be clear. I want to be clear on that. I keep hearing myself saying a lot of buts. I want to be clear that I'm not defending it in any way at all. Fashion is fashion. Things come in, things go out. One season you're allowed to wear flares. The next time it's like skinny jeans. You don't, you know, call someone hypocritical when they bring out the skinny jeans again, even though they were wearing flares last year. You know what I mean? Like, do you get my point? Like, things come in and out of season. Now with this season, the gap is in. It's cool. It's you know, alternative, and alternative is great now for this season. This is the world that they're working in, right? So again, I feel like she was a reflection of the reality of the industry to some degree. And even Fumi says she was a, what is the word? Sugar-coated version of that. Fumi says it's not what was given on America's Next Top Model. That was the glamorized version of the situation. So when we're looking at it from that point of view, you know, she's not saying sorry, because a lot of people are like, she's not apologizing. She's not taking accountability. I feel like, because one of the things I was thinking was, if she took accountability originally, before I had all of these thoughts that I'm having with you guys here in this moment, what I was thinking is, if she took accountability, that would be a clear lawsuit, 110% a clear lawsuit. And you got to understand they're in business, so they got to be in lawsuit management around this situation as well, right? I do believe her when she says that she wasn't aware of it being SA at the time. I believe her. I think that she did some mean things around her situation to get ratings that now are just disgusting, understanding it from the lens of SA. Re-traumatizing, disgusting stuff. But from the lens of where she's coming from, it was ratings and drama. And yes, she's going to feel bad about it, but she'll get over it, because didn't she do that anyway? So whatever. Do you know what I mean? That was the way of thinking around it without the lens of SA. So from that point of view, I'm like, I can see how she got. Do I believe, put it like this, do I believe that if Tyra believed it was SA, she would make her watch it and do all the things that I don't believe that she would do that. I don't believe that she's that callous that she would actively do that. I'm thinking about it because I do think she's fake and phony in a lot of things. No, I think that she's an ambitious woman. She's had to make some tough decisions. She wouldn't take the pay cut, which is why her crew were dropped from the show. She wouldn't take the pay cut. She puts herself first. All things that are just like, but I don't think she's she's not going to set up an essay situation, film it, and then make the person watch. I don't see that being a conscious thing that she would do. Which totally contradicts my narcissist. Yeah, I think she's highly narcissistic. She's going to put herself first. She's going to do, but then she was doing the silent. She's going to do a lot of toxic stuff. But do I think she would do that kind of toxic thing? I don't, even if she, let's take it out of the emotions of it. Even if she could do it from an emotional point of view, I don't think that she would do it from a professional point of view because she understands lawsuit, right? I believe she's not apologizing for it in this moment, which she's being dragged for, because in her mind, there's nothing to apologize for because she wasn't doing, whatever she was doing wasn't, how can I say this? If she apologized for it, it would be through the lens of it being SA, and she doesn't want to do that because from her point of view, it was never SA. While she understands that that's what it was now, it was never at the time in her mind SA. Give me some point. Let me know in the chat whether you think that she should apologize anyway. Do you think she should apologize anyway? And she did. If you think she did apologize in the way of, sorry, we didn't know, you deserve better than that. She did say that. With the lens that we have now, you deserve better than that, which is essentially what she said. But people say that she didn't apologize. I think they want the apology of, I'm sorry, it was SA. I knew it was SA and I should never have done that. I think that's the apology they want. Should she still she should still apologize. Yeah, but she did. There is a scene where she does apologize. She was like, sorry, boo-boo, we didn't know. You deserve better than that. And she did look a little bit like emotional around that. And I don't think she's a particularly good actor. So I think I take that as a genuine. But I think people want the sorry, we allowed you to be SA'd on set apology. And I'm not sure whether she could legally give that apology, if I'm honest. I'm like, what's if she gave that apology, the show would be cooked in regards to legal suits, right? So I think she's doing her best to give an apology as best she can without being buried in a lawsuit. What do you think? I think that's what she was trying to do. And she got dragged for it. And I think some of the disconnection was because she's not fully aware of the content of what was going to be involved. I don't think she was fully aware. I think she's emotionally disconnected anyway. And I feel like there's a part of you that has to be in order to make the tough decisions that she does, like letting all of her friends go that she started the show with so she can maintain her paycheck. But then you got to understand, but then again, and I wonder if they had been as tight as they were in the beginning, would she still have made that decision? Right? There are things that we're not factoring in that I think should be factored in. Like Jay said that he wanted to leave halfway through the thing, which would have landed her in it. She didn't handle that well. She turned into toxic, emotionally abusive type situation. There's no justification, so I'm not going to go into possible reasons for that. And from there, obviously, their relationship completely disintegrated. So when it got to the point where it was like, let them go. And Miss J, what was their relationship like as a result of Jay Manuel's conflict right? They're all kind of like intertwining into each other. Were they backbiting on each other after that point because of Jay and Jay going around saying this, or because of Tyra going around and saying that? And then everybody's kind of like backbiting on everybody. So at the point at which she was like, they were like, let them go. She was like, I'm not cutting my paycheck for them. If you look at it from that lens, is she still wrong for letting them go? Because right. I feel like her, and there's a lot of people like, oh yeah, but Miss J had a stroke and then she wouldn't go and see him. I think, again, I don't want to be too light on Tyra because she does have her issues. She definitely has her issues. But I think that the fact that she hasn't gone to see him could also be a testament to the way that she feels about him. Does that make sense? Sometimes when you feel a lot for someone and they go through something like that, it can be hard for you to face them. And I feel like that's not talked about enough, because that's not the romanticized versions of what you should, because everybody's supposed to want to be by the person's side that they love who's struggling at the time, right? That's not always the way that works. And that's not necessarily a reflection of how much you care about that person, especially with the backdrop of their relationship. I mean, she did sack him. Could there have been guilt there in regards to not wanting to face that situation? She made the hard decision, but that doesn't mean that you don't feel the brunt of that hard decision, right? It doesn't mean that you don't feel the consequences of that hard decision. Were they close at the time? We don't know. Could she feel bad about letting them? She does say that the decision came from up high, and I believe her. If for no other reason but the fact that the ratings were good and they were a great group together in regards to the show, she'd want to keep them on if she could. Does that make sense? Without her paycheck being a sacrifice. Even if they weren't friends, I feel like she is willing and able to still work alongside someone that she is not friends with for the sake of the show. Now that's making her out to be a martyr. With the Jay Manuel situation, I feel like there was a lot of punishment in that. Because they could, because at the end of the day, he wanted to leave. She made him stay. She trapped him in a situation where he had to stay, and then fired him anyway, or they fired him anyway. Highly narcissistic behavior. You find this in relationships all the time. If you're with a narcissistic type, you want to leave the situation. They love bomb you. They say, no, baby, I love you, and all of this, that, and the third. And then give it a minute, they're dumping you. They're discarding you like you didn't even matter. And you're like dumbstruck because you're just like, what in the Gideon is happening here? Because I wanted to leave you and you were given a big ones. And now that I'm now reinvested, which is what they wait for. They wait for you to reinvest. Now I'm reinvested, you're discarding me. Happens in relationships all the time. So now we're seeing it from a professional point of view. The same dynamics that happen in relationships happen in the workplace. This is a clear example of that. Question is, was that coming from her or was that coming from Ken? Another question. They had agreed to keep it quiet and to split amicably so that they could, go their separate ways and all of that stuff with their dignity intact. That was undermined by a leak by the show that certain things were going on. Again, was that decision, I need to know whether that, because a lot of people are assuming here, but I'm like, was that decision Tyra's? Or was it, we need ratings for the show, so we are going to leak this information so we can get the ratings that we want for the show coming next? because everybody's going to want to see who they were replaced by. Right? Stuff like that. Like, we got to hype this up to the, like, because you got to think about it from their kind of showbiz lens. Everything is publicity. Right? So to keep that quiet is not work, wouldn't work in their favor from a business point of view. I'm not sure that was Tyra's idea. I don't know. You guys tell me. Do you think it was Tyra's idea to sack them? Well, do you think it was Tyra's idea to sack them? And do you think it was Tyra's idea to leak that information? And the Tiffany Robinson situation. Okay, let's go into that. So Tiffany was one of the girls on the show that was a Black girl on the show who had struggled with anger issues and stuff like that. She was kicked off a previous season of America's Next Top Model because she was fighting and they had to get her off the show. They gave her another chance. They put her through anger management, gave her another chance, all of that stuff. She comes back. She's got to read some names from a teleprompter, French names. Everybody was messing it up, and Tiffany didn't even, well, she tried, but because she was messing up, she literally gave up. And Tyra went full out on her, literally exploded on her, screamed at her. A lot of people were saying that that was the what was shown was the very much edited version of what happened, and they were at risk of a lawsuit based on what she basically said to her during that filming session. People are saying that it wasn't just what was said, but the timing of it, because Tyra didn't get angry until, after Tiffany was evicted and did not get according to the public, did not get the response. And Tyra did not get the response that she wanted from Tiffany. She expected her to cry and, do all the things. But Tiffany was very calm, collected, and just walked away with grace. And apparently this ticked off Tyra. I can only say apparently because I didn't watch the episode. And I know that I can watch things and see it from a completely different view from everyone else. So I'm just going based on what they've said. I'm not going to put too much weight on that. But they say that she is narcissistic because she was having a go at her because she didn't get the reaction she wanted. And in that, she wanted her to feel bad, essentially. The I want to say eviction, but it's not that. When they tell them that they're not going to go on to the next episode, yeah, that was supposed to be the punishment, but because she didn't get the result that she wanted, the reaction that she wanted, she just went into a full meltdown. That is what the public is saying. Should she have been shouting at her? No. I don't know what was said in that situation. We were all rooting for you. Tiffany says that, Tyra was just basically humiliating them from the beginning. Again, I don't know whether that's to do with Tyra or whether that's to do with reality TV, right? I think Tyra did a lot for Tiffany behind the scenes and wanted her to show more emotions. But here's the thing. I feel like probably wanted her to show more emotions and probably didn't understand. I mean, look at Tyra talking about showing more emotions. The girl is a literal icebox. I think I see her as just robotic when she speaks. Even in America's Next Top Model, and I'm just like, oh, girl, please. But anyway, back to this. Wanted to show more emotions, but I think that Tyra doesn't understand that with that showing of emotion and bleeding of emotion comes now that Tiffany has more control over her emotions, she's not going to be as expressive in certain ways because she knows at least certain things, like her just, spiraling. So her being in the early stages of anger management, she did well to manage herself in that situation, especially with Tyra shouting at her whilst the film was going on. How do I feel about Tyra and the situation? I feel like I've softened towards her through this conversation for some reason. I feel like, I don't know whether I've given her too much grace, but as I'm talking through this now, I'm just like, I'm not sure. Is she numb? Yes. But if a guy did that, would we think anything about it though? This is my question. I'm like, she's in business, and she's being made to do. I'm not saying everything being made to do. She has been made to do a lot of things that she hasn't wanted to do. In order to do that, you got to cut off your emotions to a certain extent. You gotta, right? So that's the industry she's in. You can't walk around with your heart on your sleeve. And understanding that, you can't then turn around and say that she's a bad person for not wearing a heart on her sleeve. The two doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I need more information, really, to say whether she's a narcissistic type. I mean, she probably is, quite frankly. She probably is. The industry would have made her such. She probably is. But I mean, the silent treatment wasn't good. That's the only bit of hard evidence that I have, really, of that was her and not someone telling her, or her being a puppet to a situation, potentially being a puppet to the situation. Does that make sense? That's the way that I see it. I'm like, okay, that silent treatment, and then not, but then even that, was it her telling her? Yeah, that's what Jay Manuel said, that it was her telling him that he needed to stay. I agree. Wait a minute. I think Tyra, honestly, I can't speak today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been feeling kind of like airheaded all day. He wanted her to show more emotion. Okay, next. Harlem. Yes, I agree. Sounds like Tyra might have been protecting with Tiffany, protective with Tiffany a bit, projecting with Tiffany a bit. Okay. She seems more unresolved trauma than narcissistic. Yeah. But then here's the thing, it does seem more unresolved trauma than narcissistic. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I've been wanting to say from the beginning. It doesn't matter. It whether it's unresolved trauma or narcissism, doesn't matter. Isn't the end result the same? And this is what I mean by toxic is toxic. Whether you're in a relationship and the guy's like, oh, the reason why I shout at you was because this happened to me when I was toxic is toxic. We don't need to go into whether it's unresolved, blah, 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 blah. We need to look, when we're in relationships with people, at the outcome. This situation is toxic. Should I put myself in a situation where I'm going to be maybe needing beta blockers? For those of you who don't know, they're anxiety meds in the UK, because you have unresolved trauma. Yes, it's giving no, right? So from that point of view, we should all be, and I want to encourage us to start looking at it like that. Unresolved trauma, narcissist, generally abusive person, potato. Toxic is toxic. This behavior is toxic. And now you are exposing me to toxicity. Okay. Now your trauma is going to be a problem for me. Could result in anxiety, could result in bouts of depression. It could result in an eating disorder. It could result in substance misuse. It could result in long-term illness. It could result in anything. It could result in anything in regards to that, right? They already say autoimmune disorders are closely related to being in toxic relationships now. So we need to stop playing about it. Okay, toxic is toxic is toxic. Where they got it from, nobody cares, right? If you've got a cold, nobody goes, oh, where did you get that from? Who did you? They're just like, oh, you have a cold, stay away from me. That's it. And that's how we need to be. We need to be more like that. I feel like we as women are far too emotional about when it comes to assessing whether it's trauma or this and the other, because it gives us the excuse to stick around then, right? Doesn't it? It's like, oh, if it's a trauma, then we can stay. No, you can't. You cannot stay. You cannot stay. Tyra would have been good to have left that toxic dynamic herself, but then that's leaving an entire industry that she wants to work in. So who makes those decisions? We can't make those decisions for her. But it was definitely her numbness is definitely a result of, I believe, I say definitely, in my opinion, her numbness is a result of unresolved trauma, in my opinion. Is a result of, yeah, I do. Maybe I'm just being a bit too light with her. Her disassociated behavior. I feel like that's modeling. You got to have a persona to a certain extent. So I feel like the combination of the two doesn't mesh well. I think that her behavior is narcissistic at times, highly narcissistic at times. And the other thing is that I think that a lot of people don't know, or maybe don't connect the dots as to, is that narcissistic personality disorder can develop as a result of trauma. So potato, what are we saying? It's like, how far along the spectrum of trauma are you, is the question. Really, are you at this end where we're getting into personality disorders, or are you lower down where we're talking about anxiety and depression, right? Where are you on the spectrum is all we're talking about, really. So to say that you would stay with someone because their behavior is a result of trauma is to make yourself, to expose yourself to being placed somewhere on that same spectrum. Trauma can cause you to develop narcissistic personality disorder. So how much do you love that person, really? Right? You shouldn't be loving them enough to put yourself in a position where you could literally develop a disorder for them. Come on. Let's start thinking about this. I think I haven't got it on me, but I saw a TikTok video done by this lady who was, and I wish I'd saved it because it was great, where she was talking about how she worked in a mental health institute for women, and 90% of the mental health issues had been the result of them being in toxic dynamics. Yeah, 90%. 90%, ladies. This stuff can make you it's not, oh, well, he's playing games, he's playing get out of there. Get out of the head games. Get out of there. We're talking mental health. We're talking developing serious mental health issues. Gaslighting alone can cause you to have a literal nervous breakdown. So if she's a little bit kooky now, I'm not surprised. Right? If she's aggressive now, if she's disassociated now in regards to her emotions, not surprised. Can you think, like, she even when she talks about her own experiences, because I don't rate her as much of an actor really, to be fair. Even when she speaks about, maybe I'm wrong, but even when she talks about her own situations, you can hear the emotions coming up then. She can connect to the emotions when she's talking about it. So clearly unresolved, right? Yeah, I feel like she is toxic. I do. And that's a result of the trauma that she's been through. Like I am always saying, you cannot get out of there's no perfect victim. Doesn't exist. But it doesn't make you any less of a victim because you're not perfect. Key. So let's start. Oh, I can't, because I literally, you're going to have to bear with me now, guys, as I upload all of these things again, because I had it all laid out nicely and now I don't have it. Now I don't have it. We've got to get to the court of public opinion. All right. Luckily, I label these things, or else we would be here for 90 days and 90 nights. Right? It's like ridiculous. Let's see. 1, 2, 1. This is the next one.
Read the story?
2.
Was a man we wouldn't.
Yeah, this is. I've taken, because there was so, honestly, I've saved so many videos on this because everybody had a point of view. I had 85 videos and I've narrowed it down to this, the most kind of like provocative takes of the situation. That most of them are provocative takes anyway. Thought-provoking takes. Let's put it like that.
Little innocent.
Because otherwise it's just going to be a lot of, oh my gosh, Tara's a bad person. And whilst, again, she's not my favorite person. I've never been a fan, I have to admit, but I like to look at things from both sides of the coin, whether I like that person or not.
This is my
because I think that that's the only fair way to deal with people and to make judgments on situations. All right, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section as this is going on. We're going to the court of public opinion, guys. And if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up. Let YouTube know that you like it and hit that bell. Subscribe and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I go live, which is every Sunday, 5:30 British Standard Time. This is a difficult one for me. I understand her toxicity, but to see her victimhood, I don't understand. This is a difficult one for me. I understand her toxicity, but see her victimhood. All right. Okay. So I don't. Is she playing the victim? Or is she just telling you how it is? Elaborate on the victimhood for me, please, so I can have a little thought about this. And in what ways is she playing into victimhood? Let me know in the chat, and then we can kind of like toss this up and have a little discussion about it. I'm not sure. All right, so here's what Eva had to say about the situation. Remember Eva from one of the seasons? Beautiful. I loved Eva. In fact, I had my hair quite short at the time, and I actually had it dyed the same color. Well, same kind of like because she had a dye that was like her skin tone extended into her hair. And I basically did the same thing based on America's Next Top Model. I literally did the same thing. I did. And my hair was short too at the time. So, yeah, I think she's absolutely gorgeous. Let's see what she has to say about this entire situation.
A society, you can't say that. That is politically incorrect. It is insensitive.
Yes.
A society, you can't say that. That is politically incorrect. It is insensitive. At the time, I bona fide believe that no one was trying to be insensitive. They were actually trying to be inclusive and funny at the same time. So I say that to say the temperature gauge and the barometer that we now measure the things that were are all off. The metric system is so messed up. Tyra Banks set out to do one thing, which was to show beauty in a different light. We forget that Tyra is not Jesus. She is a woman. To err is to be human. Every intention she had was pure.
Well, there you have it. Eva said, not too much on my girl. She was human, and the temperature today is not what the temperature was yesterday. Everybody chill out. And again, it's all about experience, because Shandy has a different experience. Adrian has a different experience. Danny has a different experience. Yaya has a different experience.
Yaya,
let me know your thoughts on what Eva said. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I agree. I pretty much said so at the beginning of this thing. She talked about her experience in the past about being, that. Thank you for reminding me about that. That's problematic. I agree. That is problematic. It's like you can't, and I have the same thing when it comes to, I was a victim of, when you say that you're a victim of SA or whatever, and then you go out and you go against victims of SA, I have a problem with that. Okay, you can't be of the people and then work against the people, right? And that is the contradiction in what she was doing. But then it's difficult, right? Because she's still working within the industry and she still has to set them up for the industry. She cannot be in her bubble saying everything's great and it doesn't really matter, because these people then have to go out into the world and have a career. However, there was something that Danny said. Was it Danny? The one with the gap. Yeah, it was Danny who said that, Tyra admitted that certain doors weren't open to Danny and she didn't go out of her way to kind of like help her. She saw her struggling out there in the industry and she didn't go out to help her. And that upset Danny in a big way. I remember them talking about that. So again, it's maddening, because it's all a bit of a contradiction, because it's like, okay, I can understand. She wants to be for the people. She wants to do this for the people. She experienced certain things and she doesn't want other people to go through that, apparently, right? But then she's putting them through it because she needs to train them to be prepared for the situation that's coming towards them. However, she also understands that because they're on a reality TV show, they probably don't have a future anyway. So where are we? Where are we in this at all, apart from in utter confusion? Okay, in utter confusion. I believe that when she started out, before the thing had actually grew wings, she had good intentions and she was working with that. But I feel like there were so many compromises along the way, the vision was completely lost. That's what I think. Because that's what happens with compromise. You don't just lose vision all at once. It's one compromise at a time. Okay, I better do this for Ken. I got to do this for the show. I don't really agree, but we got to do it because we got to do it for ratings. And then suddenly you're out in the wilderness and your mission is nowhere to be found. Wait a minute. Let's see what else. Experience young in the industry, again, not excusing her behavior, but things happened to her. That is true. But then she also became a perpetrator of those same things. So what are we doing? Okay, are we about this or are we not about this? And again, I can understand how she became not about it. Certain decisions have to be made. That's not, you know, I just don't think the show had the framework to allow for the things that she wanted to allow for. Being on a reality TV, being in the reality TV industry. I think one of the people talk about this in more detail. So maybe you'll get what I'm talking about when he starts talking about it, because he knows more about it than me. Yeah, but the moment the young women were crying, having panic attacks, breaking down, it was very much because I suffered, you must suffer. Exactly. And that's another trauma. Here's the thing. That's the other thing about trauma, right? That's the other thing about people who go through stuff. They can be the most detached, get over it, pull your your strings up by the bootstraps people in the world. They can be, because if you have unresolved trauma, you must understand you can only meet someone where you are. And if you were unresolved, your trauma is unresolved, you're going to meet them in unresolved. Okay? What comes up as a result of that is what comes up. Maybe today I will have, I'll be able to tell you about my pain, but then when you're telling me about your pain, I've got nothing for you, because this is what it is. Get over it. Right? That's unresolved trauma all the way. That's the problem with it. That's the problem with people who have been through stuff. If it hasn't been resolved in the right way, those people become completely unhelpful to you in your healing process. In fact, they can do more damage. Okay. It was socially acceptable, but they knew it wasn't right because it didn't feel good. Yeah, of course. But a lot of things don't feel good in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Hollyweird. Right? Just because it doesn't feel good, does that mean that they don't do it? No. It means that they cut off their feelings and do it anyway, because they're in an industry that pushes that. That's Tyra's cognitive dissonance as being victim, yet trying to survive the industry. Yeah. If age, little, I don't know. If she processed her trauma, she might have been a better advocate yeah. But then really, I feel like, yeah, on one hand, yes, 110%. There's nothing better than fully processed trauma to be a support to other people who are going through the same situation. 110% yes. But would that show have changed? No. Would she have been a part of that show? Probably not. If she was fully healed, would she have been a part? Probably not. You know what I mean? Again, it was part of the cognitive dissonance that would have allowed her to still take part in that situation. Now she's out of the industry, but then she says, and here's another thing that makes me think they set her up. The fact that she says that she's doing season 25, was it 20? Basically, she's doing another season of America's Next Top Model. She basically promoted it on that documentary. And I just don't believe she's that tone deaf. Like, I don't think she's that tone deaf. I believe that they made out that it was something that it wasn't. Because when I listened to how they run the shows, another girl was talking about how she got on the Tyra show. And she didn't even know what the show was about until she got there and she read the card. She was in makeup on set. Had the card and was like, oh, this is what we're talking about? Oh my gosh, right? So the possibility of them turning around and doing that to Tyra are high. So now I'm thinking, okay, did you have the full scope of what that documentary was going to be about? I just don't, because why would you then, knowing that, talk about the next season? she would have known how that would have made her look if she was fully aware of the full context of that documentary. And originally the show was about Miss J, right? And it basically did a spin-off into Next Top Model. But originally it was about Miss J. And she wasn't involved in it at all. And then it kind of spun around. Anyway, let's get back to the court of public opinion. Next.
Shandy?
All right.
You remember the story with Shandy?
I do remember her story. It's a little difficult for me to talk about production because that's not my territory.
I cannot watch enough of that. Like and I've edited it, I've seen it a million times, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, what was going through your mind when you were on that phone?
And that's her talking about her being on the phone to her boyfriend, talking about her cheating and stuff like that. That was Shandy. I can't say her name. By the way, she's got dark hair here, but that was Shandy. Let's run it back again. Because she says here that she's not. But I'm just wanting to know what part of production is she talking about? Because editing is a part of production, sure. But isn't there just more than editing involved? Let's have it's been a while. Let me have a look. Isn't there more than editing involved in production?
You remember the story with Shandy?
I do remember her story. It's a little difficult for me to talk about production because that's not my territory.
Now, in production, in regards to reality TV, if that's what she's saying, I get where she's coming from because that's not her territory. Production as in editing, okay, she's lying. But production is in reality TV because she's asking her about the storyline that was given to Shandy. And that storyline was given by production, not her, is basically what she's saying. I think that's believable. Editing and storylining are two different fields. The production of reality TV. List all the roles. Editing and production. Let's have a look. Because I'm thinking, yeah and no. Initially, when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, she's totally lying. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe, actually, maybe not. maybe not. All right. So whilst it's having a look at that, let's go on to the next one.
I'm not saying she was right, but just hear me out on this, okay? If Tyra Banks was such a bad producer, we wouldn't be talking about the show today. Tyra Banks and her production partners, they went into the world of reality TV. I want to emphasize reality TV. Reality TV is not a Girl Scout troop, honey. If you're looking for morality and non-exploitation of people, you do not go to reality TV, right? So
did you hear that? So this is the lens that I'm looking at it from at this point of view. Let's keep going. So she's trying to make changes within the industry and give these virtue messages in what is the equivalent of the cesspool of the TV world. Doesn't sound like a good match, right? Let's keep going.
Already right there, that lets you know what her mindset was in terms of the type of production that she was willing to do and capable of doing. She went to reality TV, and not only did she deliver at the level of her peers, who are mostly men who don't look anything like her, she delivered at that level and dominated. How many reality shows do we know of that went over 20 cycles and have been licensed into multiple other countries and languages? Very few. This woman created and was one of the top producers on a show that is arguably one of the most successful shows on TV and in the world. And in order to do that, unfortunately, in that realm, playing ball in that realm to be successful means that you're going to produce some stuff that is going to not age very well. You may even be hated for it. But that's what being a reality show producer is. And I think that a lot of people are so angry with her because we expected that she would be different. We saw her as our sister, our cousin, the woman we admired. We saw her beauty, and we thought that her beauty and her softness on camera meant that her business acumen was soft, and it wasn't. This woman was a formidable producer and a fierce businesswoman. Literally. You don't do what she did without that kind of acumen. And the reality is that if she were a man with that same business acumen, I think that many of us would be celebrating her. Or at the very least, we wouldn't be talking about it. Because
isn't it the one of the biggest reality TV shows in the world? They have spin-offs in all different parts of the world. It's like an international success.
She would be doing exactly what we expect her to do, which is delivering the type of TV that we...
I mean, she didn't do it on her own. Ken, who is the godfather of reality TV, that was the team that she was working with. And in order to get it to the level of success that it was, she had to do certain things.
All wanted to watch.
Obviously, talking about it from the lens of then, not now, because we're never going to justify filming SA. They didn't know that's what they were doing, though. Let's be clear. Let's keep going.
And the reality is that if she were a man with that same business acumen, I think that many of us would be celebrating her. Or at the very least, we wouldn't be talking about it, because she would be doing exactly what we expect her to do, which is delivering the type of TV that we all wanted to watch. We were watching that show. Reality show producers, I don't think that they lack morals. I think that their moral code is whatever your moral code is. They're going to deliver TV to you that aligns with whatever you want to watch. So as much as we can say that was exploitative and that they did this, they did that, how many of us tuned in week after week, season after season, and watched it? No red flags were going off at that time that this seems a little weird? No.
Exactly. Let's pause on that. We watched... What, did we watch that? I don't remember watching that, but, they had the scene. Well, no. They had the scene and they had to cut it out because of some standards and stuff that was going around at the time. I'm not sure whether we watched Shandy and the guy in full-blown mode. But whatever was revealed, but then it was framed through the lens of cheating. So I guess let's just keep going. So to say there wasn't any uproar at the time, but the narrative would have made that less shocking, right?
It didn't go off for us because what she was doing was exactly like her peers were doing. If we turn to Fear Factor, any of the other reality shows that were on TV at that time, Real World, they were doing the exact same type of production. Exploiting people. Even on some shows, they were outright getting them drunk on TV. Right? You could tell these people are being served massive amounts of alcohol, having to live in houses where the lights are on constantly so they're sleep deprived. Producers in confessionals asking them questions that start fights. They were doing the exact same thing. And Tyra just happened to do it and do it so well that we're talking about it decades later. I'm not trying to let her off the hook, but what I'm saying is she any different than many of us? A lot of y'all work in HR departments and work for big corporations, and you go into these environments, and in order for you to stay there so you can keep your job and not get fired, you got to make decisions every day that go against some of your moral code. You firing people for reasons that some executive told you got to fire people, but you're like, I don't know if I really agree with that. You having to make management decisions. If you've not had to make a hard decision in work, then you're not high enough within that organization, because as you get higher, you will make difficult decisions. But if you want to dominate in these spaces, What do they say? When in Rome, do as the Romans. And for me, that's not something I'm willing to do, which is why I don't produce reality TV. For you, the same thing. But we can't sit up here and act like we were not the same people who were watching this stuff. They were chasing our views and we kept on coming back for it. But the reality is that she did exactly what her male peers did and dominated in that space. But the only reason why we're not talking about them and we're talking about her is because she, as a woman, and I'm going to say it even as a minority woman, I think that we expected that she would go into that space and operate differently than her.
And also because they hung her out to dry, in my opinion. Let's keep going.
Peers. And the reality is that no, the reason why she is the mega producer that we now know and talk about today is because she not only adapted to be like her peers, she dominated them. And I think that deserves to be acknowledged as well, without dismissing or ignoring the harm that she did as well.
I feel like to say that she dominated, I feel like her and Ken dominated. It wasn't a one-man band. She was the face. She was the face. I feel like we're overlooking, because here's the thing. I've just got this list now, what she was saying about production. Let's go back to this one here where she was talking about, you know, different parts of production. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 roles within production on set during filming. So for her to say that wasn't my area, and one of those areas of production is story producer, tracks narrative art. So for her to say that wasn't her, maybe it wasn't her field. How many do we have here? Different fields do we have within? She just spoke about editing and being in all areas of editing. That's one section, one tiny section of production. No, we have, let's have a look. No, we have called out those other shows. Oh, did we? I don't know. I don't watch them. Oh yeah, we definitely did all versions. Yeah, we did the Idol. Did we call out Idol? Why did we call out Idol? I love Idol. America's Idol. American Idol. That's a great show. What? Okay, maybe not say. Maybe I shouldn't say that too loud. What did they do wrong? Please let me know. We've gotten critiques. Okay, let me know what they did on Idol because I love that. Talent, amazing.
They were tormenting me with my childhood.
All right, let's go.
Tyra Banks, America.
Let's have a listen to what another contestant on the show had to say about it.
Next top model might be the evilest show to ever exist.
They were tormenting me with my childhood sexual molestation trauma. When top models, when I first went on, they give you all these therapy sessions with psychologists.
Like before you go onto the show?
Before you go on the show. Okay. It's like 2,000 questions that you do in a day. They had me talk to 2 or 3 different psychologists. And at the time, I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. They're also giving me therapy. Like I get to talk to somebody. Turns out that they just use all of that to use against you.
Oh no, so they're like collecting this information to then leverage it on the show.
To abuse you with it.
This is Lisa the model, and she won the 7th.
And that is why reality TV is the scum of the earth. Because just like the narcissistic character who comes into your life and data collects, they data collect before throwing you into an isolated situation and then poking you with the information that they've collected. Wow. That's crazy. And that is why reality TV is the scum of the earth. And what you're seeing isn't necessarily that person's character, but them being brought out of character based on the provocation that they've been exposed to. Are you connecting the dots? I surely am.
Cycle of America's Next Top Model. She was also in Cycle 5, but at that time she didn't win it. A couple of years ago, she actually spoke on an interview about the psychological abuse that she endured on the show. They knew that she was being essayed by her mother's boyfriend from 3rd to 7th grade, and they used this against her to create content.
3rd to 7th, I was sexually molested and beaten and all the horrible things.
They literally used this information to get a rise out of her because they wanted to try to get as much engaging content as possible. How is it even legal for a therapist to even pass pass on the information that was shared with them to a show? Isn't there like some kind of confidentiality clause or something? I feel like this had to be a humiliation ritual because anytime they knew anything about the models, they would use it against them. Like with the Danny Evans situation, she had a gap that she was proud of. That was a part of her signature look, and they knew that, and they was like, okay, how can we create engagement here? Let's tell her to close it up. They absolutely knew that was going to be a fight. They knew she had so much pride in her gap. Tyra Banks had to have known how much an issue Danny Evans would have had with this. They wanted to create tense situation because they felt like that's what America would want to see.
Pause. But how much say did Tyra Banks have about that? Storylines, story narratives, story creation. How much say? I need to know how much say she had in that in order to properly assess how evil Tyra is, right? In regards to that. Let's finish this off and then have a listen to a read to what you
The fact
guys
that they
saying.
gave her an ultimatum of closing her gap or she's gone from the show, and then for a different season praising another woman for having a gap. And I feel like it was another humiliation situation over there as well with that woman, because it was like, oh, let's open your gap even larger. I think they wanted that woman to fight against it, but instead she was like, no, you guys can open it as large as you want. And that just shows how little power people have. You feel like you have to listen to these people because they could just cut the water off on you. This literally has me thinking of everything completely different now. Let's talk about the whole Shandy situation. Her boyfriend encouraged her to join this whole American Next Top Model, and then she goes over there and then cheats on him. After knowing what I know now, I can't imagine this wasn't planned out somehow through production. Shandy's boyfriend at the time encouraged her to be a part of the America's Next Top Model, which is why she went there in the first place. Now imagine her having to speak with therapists, and then they find out more about her life and her boyfriend's life, and then they're just figuring out, oh, she really likes this dude. What would happen if we were to mess this up? I'm sure our ratings would go up. Now, from what Shandy says, she says she doesn't remember actually cheating on her boyfriend. What she does remember is having a lack of food and being exhausted, which caused her to black out. Also, other models besides Shandy talked about the show having a culture of food deprivation. Now, imagine that you're really hungry and exhausted, and the only thing you have around you is alcohol. You're probably going to drink a little bit more than you should just to try to fill up your stomach somewhere. It sounds like a recipe for disaster to me, and it seems very intentional. They recorded the whole thing on camera. At what point does this not sound like they're getting a return on investment? Now that you guys know about the whole psychology and therapy sessions that they've been having with these models, what other terrible situations do you think that this show might have started to create engagement?
So basically what you're saying is the minute you go on a reality TV show, you're basically asking to be played with, manipulated, and provoked, and then have the world look at you like you're crazy as a result, as though you did that. You just saw yourself. It's the equivalent of getting into a toxic relationship. Yeah. And then maybe having your name smeared. Maybe them starting a smear campaign. It's literally the equivalent. Wow, that's crazy. Pop Idol for poor treatment of contestants, manipulation, cruelty of the judges, especially Simon. Oh yeah, Simon Cowell and Randy. I didn't know about Randy. And how Paula Abdul was consistently inebriated. Yeah. But that's, yeah. Inebriated. Yeah, sorry, inebriated in that. But that's a side note. Okay. American Idol, American Dream, 2026, that are welcome. And wait a minute, she was she was drunk? She was on the show? Under the influence. Yeah. Oh, not drunk, but under the influence. Okay, fair. Mostly prescription drugs. Oh, but wait, no, but you said something about manipulation and judges, cruelty. Simon Cowell he was supposed to be the cruel one, though. Wasn't that the point? Like good cop, bad cop? Yeah, go back and watch. She was loopy a lot of the time. It was from old injuries. Oh, did she have a pill addiction. Oh, that's sad. Okay, let's keep going. Guys, let me know your thoughts about what's being said here. What do you think of, I've forgotten his name. Surprise, surprise. Let's go on to the next guy.
The next top model might be the evilest show to ever exist.
Do we think it's the evilest show to ever exist? Certainly sounds like they definitely.
What else did she say?
Hang on. Yes, I'm just acknowledging that other shows have been explored. Let me just put that up. Other shows have been explored and revealed for their terrible ways. Okay, fair. So this one takes a cake then, because they seem to, if you think of Love is Blind, well, they seem to have shapen up their acts. Although in one of the episodes, people were complaining about not being fed enough. And then there's that really annoying thing whereby they keep having SA and abusive people on the show. So they're clearly not being screened properly. They're just bringing anybody on and saying, hey, marry this other person. We don't know whether he has a criminal record or whether he's done X, Y, and Z, and we're not going to screen him. We're just going to put you on the show, get you to marry him and see what happens. Like, that's not like a recipe for disaster. Yeah. Love is Blind is very problematic, which is why I used to do reviews on it, because every second person on the show was toxic. It's crazy. I haven't seen this latest one, though I haven't had time, but I will try. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna have time. Let's keep going. Guys, you fill me in on what's going on with Love is Blind right now. What's wrong with me? I cannot speak today. I literally cannot speak. Tongue-tied all the way. Anyway, let's keep going. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Let's keep going.
To Tiffany that wasn't televised. Because Jay Alex.
Hang on.
Oh, and I would like to know, what else did she say to Tiffany that wasn't televised? Because Jay Alexander did say that it was much worse than what we actually saw on TV. So what the fuck did she say to that girl for them to have attorneys in the next meeting? At this point, since all bets are off, I need somebody that was present to tell me exactly what she said to Tiffany. And like, looking back, Tiffany was not wrong. They really was trying to embarrass them girls. They were trying to fucking humiliate those girls because they knew that they would not be able to pronounce half the words that was on that fucking screen. And Tiffany wasn't going for it. Like, Tiffany was not going to allow them to make a mockery out of her. And that's what I think really triggered Tyra, because it gave very much, I gave you another chance. How dare you not do what I tell you to do? Like, that entire argument has always given me that. And now that we know that she said more than that to that girl, it gave very much, you are being defiant to authority, so I'm gonna cuss you the fuck out. Because how fucking dare you? I could have chose another hood bitch from the streets to be here, but I chose your hood booger ass. And it's also like a double slap in the face, because Tyra knew that none of those girls on the show were actually going to have a real career. She knew that very early on into the show, so it's like, you saying you gave me an opportunity, but an opportunity to what? Humiliate me? Because that's the only thing I'm getting out of this deal. I'm not getting signed. I'm not going to be an actual model. Like, Tyra Banks is indeed a menace to society. That's why she fled to fucking Australia and is making goddamn hot ice cream in cups.
Documentary
could
fool
that
you,
be
Mr. J.
why she fled to Australia, or could the guilt of following such orders be eating her alive and adding to her trauma? That could also be it. Because again, I'm just not understand. I get that the show was problematic. I get she was the face of the show. I get that she had intentions, and I get that she was herself quite toxic in certain situations and pushed quite toxic messages. But what I'm not getting is why she is responsible for the drama and the way that the show was put together, when she is not a specialist in reality TV and she was not in any way in charge of that section of things. That's why I'm just like, can we have a little bit more heat on Ken? Can we? Can we shine a little bit more of a light on the person who specializes in reality TV and has made the best? What were the other reality TV shows he had done? Apparently, at the time, he was the leader of all reality TV shows, one of the best. So let's keep going.
One of the meanest people on America's Next Top Model. He was meaner than Tyra. Some of the things he would say to those girls.
Okay, let's go back.
Don't let that little innocent act on that documentary fool you. Mr. J was one of the meanest people on America's Next Top Model. He was meaner than Tyra. Some of the things he would say to those girls' faces, I've seen America's Next Top Model about 173 times. And I can tell you that nobody was feeding him anything. He enjoyed the drama. He loved living in that energy of destroying those girls' spirits. Like, Tyra would at least tell them things from an industry perspective, or at least let other people do her dirty work. Mr. J, on the other hand, he would say things that wasn't constructive at all. He was just like, I'm tired of Kelly. I'm tired of looking at Kelly. I'm tired of Kelly talking. That was cycle 3. This black girl, Kelly, raised her hand and she's like, hey, can you not tell me that I'm doing great if I'm not doing great? Because it seemed like every time you tell me I'm doing great, you lying. And he's like, okay, Kelly, but I can't hold your hand. I didn't say hold my hand. I said, don't lie to me. He said that Ferranda looked like a praying mantis. And you know, Miss J is funny. Miss J can insult you and make you laugh. Like, Miss J told girls that they walk like they was on crack, and they would crack up. Mr. J, you could tell girls wanted to slap him. And something tells me that something happened between him and Tyra that ain't got nothing to do with the show. He was like, oh, I told Tyra first that I was leaving the show, and I sent a long email. There you go, your problem right there. Why you ain't tell Tyra in her face like she your friend? You sending professional emails to Tyra? I would return an email back like, oh, that's how you want to tell me? You know, he talked about that woman behind her back and called her a bitch or something. He did something to Tyra because she ain't just stopped talking to him over this show. And now he turned it all around and act like he wasn't in support of nothing on the show at all. He was right there beside Tyra. He probably came up with all the things. He said, you know what we should do? We should have the girls watch.
What do you guys think? I don't think that Nigel, Barker, Miss J, and Jay Manuel are all that innocent in that situation.
America's Next Top Model expose documentary. Okay, and here are my thoughts.
Do I think Tyra's toxic? Yes, I do. I do. Let's be clear. I do think she's toxic. But I also think they are too. And the way that they are going on interviews right now, just making the situation worse and throwing dirt on her. And okay, part of it might be, well, you sacked us and you betrayed us. And okay, fair. And that's true. That is fair and that is true. Right. Good. However, Jay Manuel's all like, you know, I've evolved and I'm just like peace and love. And, you know, the people that I'm friends with now are just in a much healthier spirit and headspace and and then you're on then you're on interviews making it even worse for Tyra. But you're in a much healthier space now with healthier friends, with healthier lifestyle. You're so evolved, but we're still kicking dirt. I'm confused. Right. So from that point of view, I'm like, okay, she did this bad thing. You've moved on. You're much happier now. You don't miss the relationship and all of these things that he said. I heard him say out of his own mouth. I'm kind of like, okay, then have that be that. But then he does say stuff like, you know, we had a relationship and there's certain things that I will take to my grave, even though we're not friends anymore. And I'm just like, but at the same time, you are still kind of like throwing her under the bus with every interview that you do. So it makes me wonder whether you are not sharing this information because it's protecting her, or you're not sharing this information because it also protects you. You know what I mean? I'm confused at what his angle is with that. In the category, fortunately, culpability is an infinite resource. I gotta take these off. They can all get it. Exactly. They're all responsible. They're all guilty. This is what I say. This is what I say. Because I'm just like, what is happening? Why is it all on her at this point? And you know, I had no idea I was going to be swaying this way at the end of it, to be fair, because I was very much like, from the beginning, like, Tyra's a menace to society. Okay, this is going to be easy. But as we're talking this out, as we're going through it, I'm just like, yeah, but
Episode 1 of the new America's Next Top Model expose documentary, okay, and here are my thoughts on some of the controversies. Firstly, I knew that Tyra Banks was going to be on her bullshit with this documentary, okay. I knew that she would be trying to manipulate us, the audience, rewriting the narrative. She is very clever. She is a true actress, okay. One thing that she does throughout the first episode, which is very clever, she basically groups herself with other models. She talks about her struggles as a model and how passionate she feels about sticking up for models, how much it upsets her when certain stereotypes are applied to models or models are torn down or spoke badly of them. What she basically thinks is if she groups herself with all the rest of the models, therefore because she's one of them, she cannot harm them. But Tyra, you're not going to pull the wool over my eyes. You see how wide, not my eyes, okay, because you quite literally are responsible for building a global platform that perpetuates everything that devastates you so much about the modeling industry. The way that Tyra allowed the judges to perpetuate negative and harmful stereotypes, the microaggressions, just in general how the girls were treated. How can you preach about wanting to change the modeling industry when you are doing so much to harm it? Anyway, let's get into the controversies that came up in that episode. First of all, we have Ebony from Cycle 1, okay? She spoke about so much stuff, it's a list, I must read it, okay? First of all, she talks about the fact that Tyra basically outed her as a lesbian on national TV, and she wasn't too mad, but she's kind of like, hey, I wish it was a private conversation, right? She also says, I don't even need the list because I can remember because I'm so infuriated for her. She also talks about the fact that when they shaved off her hair, they didn't have the right clippers, they were touching her hair and they were laughing about her hair texture, right? And obviously she was upset about that. The show made out like she was being a diva, but really she's been left with a couple of bald patches. There she was thinking that Tyra was going to call her and be like, sis, this is really bad, like I'm going to sort this for you. Tyra calls her and is like, hey, apparently you've been showing up on set ashy. Yeah, like you need to sort your skin out. If people do not know why it's problematic to use the term ashy, then I'm not here to explain it to you, but Google is free, so is ChatGPT. We quite literally saw clips of Tyra saying, as a black woman, your skin should be like butter, but it isn't, and we had to do so much retouching. We saw judges call her harsh, aggressive, angry, too much. You get the drift. We then had Giselle, also from Cycle 1. Now, her thing is that the show was not what she thought it was going to be. For example, production were trying to turn all of the girls against one another. She thought it was like a modelling show. And also she talks about the fact that we actually saw this clip of a judge saying that she's got a wide ass, Tyra saying that she agrees. She says that her confidence was completely knocked because everybody was talking about her weight. In the aftermath, she couldn't get work because everybody knew her as the girl that lacked confidence. And she said that them saying that she has a wide ass has stayed with her up until now, and it really impacts her self-image. Then we had Shandy from Cycle 2, and I feel like now we're getting into the serious stuff. I will give you a trigger warning when it is necessary, okay? So first of all, Ken Mock comes on the screen, and he's basically saying that a lot of the girls that go on to America's Next Top Model, they have difficult home lives, right? E.g. have strained relationships with their parents. And then obviously we see Shandy saying, yes, I had a strained relationship with my parents. I felt neglected. I felt like they didn't love me, okay? So then we watch a scene on America's Next Top Model, and this psychologist comes in and sits down with Shandy and says, I know what you need. You need family. You need a hug. Does anyone hug you, Shandy? And of course, she breaks down crying, right? Now, what I didn't like is that Ken Mock tried to describe it as, oh, well, this is a way that we let girls get their story out. This is how girls tell their story and talk about how it's impacting their modelling journey. No, you are weaponizing people's trauma and pain for entertainment. And I do believe that Tyra would adopt those tactics, right? Because in this documentary or in this episode, the way that Ken Mock and Mr. J talk about how badly Tyra wanted this to be a success, I really feel like she would throw any of her girls, her models under the bus to get a good show. Now, trigger warning for SA, okay? So then Shandy talks about the trip that they all went on to Milan. If you guys
I don't think it's as simple as to get a good show. I think it's more like coercive control from higher up. It's like, you're going to do what we need you to do or else you don't have a show. You know what I mean? So she's making a choice between not having the show at all or compromising a little bit. Right? Going against what she wants, going against what she wants to do a little bit. And you know what I mean? It's more like that than her just being like, I just feel, I can hear the coercive control and I can feel the coercive control in the situation that she was in. You know what I mean?
Remember, they go on the go season, they're riding the bikes, and then Shandy had a boyfriend, and then all of the boys, all the men get invited back to the house for dinner or something, okay? She basically says that she was blackout drunk. She cannot remember anything. She just remembers waking up and this man was on top of her, right? What she then goes on to say is that everybody is in the room. Like, it's all on film. Everybody is aware of this. So what I found to be really poor taste, like really just disgusting. Okay, and I get it, it's the end of the episode, so it could have been how they edited it. I blatantly have not watched episode 2, so genuinely I don't know. But when they asked Tyra, okay, now we need to talk about something difficult, Shandy. She's like, okay. They're like, do you remember Shandy's story? And she's like, again, could be editing because it was the end of the episode.
What's going on?
My thing is, if you have somebody who came onto your show and they are saying that they were abused on your show, I would like to think that you remember their name, their face, and their story. You don't have to dig in your memory, do you know what I mean, to try and remember it. Okay, lastly, I just want to touch on how
wait a minute.
I feel like
wait.
We need to talk about something difficult, Shandy. She's like, okay. They're like, do you remember Shandy's story? And she's like, again, could be editing because it was the end of the episode. My thing is, if you have somebody who came onto your show and they are saying that they were abused on your show, I would like to think that you remember their name, their face, and their story. You don't have to dig in your memory, do you know what I mean, to try and remember it. Okay, lastly, I just want to...
Yeah, but she wasn't saying at the time, as far as I'm aware, she wasn't saying at the time that she was essayed.
Touch on how hypocritical I feel like Tyra came across in that episode. Basically what I was saying at the beginning, and how it seems like Ken Mock and Mr. J are doing some serious damage control for her. So I want to use the example of Janice Dickinson. So on the show, as we know, we heard her call girls fat, ugly, boring, they need to lose weight, very disgusting things, okay? And Mr. J says, oh, well, we needed her. We needed that because she reflected a real opinion that existed in the modeling industry at that time. Okay. Tyra says that she wanted to put out the message into the modeling industry that you don't need to be small. Okay. And Mr. J says that Tyra was often very unhappy with Janice. Janice was a rage baiter and they were always going back and forth. And the show basically shows us one clip of Janice and Tyra going back and forth, and Tyra's kind of shouting at Janice, being like, you're the reason that girls are vomiting after meals in the bathroom and feeling like they need to be a size 0 and blah, blah, blah. Great. That is great. But that is one clip. Do you get it? That's one clip. We know there are countless times that Tyra stayed silent when judges were making microaggressions, fat shaming, which also Tyra also participated in, and overall perpetuating an unrealistic standard for models that Tyra herself is saying that she's trying to dispel. How does this make sense when you are the executive producer of this show? Lastly, I also found it very interesting the way that Ken Mock would frame things to paint Tyra as the hero. Okay, so if you watch the episode, you're going to know what I'm talking about. He basically says that Ken and Tyra's version of diversity was very different to the network's version of diversity. Fair enough. The network were basically saying one ethnic minority and that's enough. We don't need any more. Whereas Tyra wanted more. Ken says that the director of the network...
I haven't even factored in the network, because the network is not even remotely at all considering any virtue signaling at all. The network does not give a crap, right? So they're taking direction from the network as well. This is an impossibly insane situation. It was set up to fail from the beginning. Let's keep going.
Work, whose name I had, but now I've deleted.
Let's go back a bit.
Also participated in and overall perpetuating an unrealistic standard for models that Tyra herself is saying that she's trying to dispel. How does this make sense when you are the executive producer of this show? Lastly, I also found it very interesting the way that Ken Mock would frame things to paint Tyra as the hero. Okay, so if you watch the episode, you're going to know what I'm talking about. He basically says that Ken and Tyra's version of diversity was very different to the network's version of diversity. Fair enough. The network were basically saying one ethnic minority and that's enough. We don't need any more. Whereas Tyra wanted more. Ken says that the director of the network, whose name I had, but now I've deleted it by accident, was basically saying he did not want a Hispanic girl. That's how he made it sound. I had to listen to it like 3 or 4 times to work out. It's not that the owner of the network didn't want a Hispanic girl. He didn't want that Hispanic girl. But Ken Mock was like, no. And Tyra picked up the phone and she was screaming. She was so angry. And it's like, okay. He wasn't being racist saying, I don't want any Hispanics. He was saying, for whatever reason, I don't want this Hispanic, but go and find another. And that's what Tyra did. But I feel like the way that they told the story was like, she is this hero for ethnic minorities. She said, no, I want more. And she's like fighting against this racist system when that doesn't sound like that was the case. It sounds like he didn't want her because of something very particular that isn't to do with her race. But these lot have spun it in a way so that Tyra's the hero. But Tyra, you cannot be a hero fighting against racism when your show was doing up blackface. Anyway, I know I'm going to enjoy the next 2 parts. I was literally raised on America's...
Was that her idea though? That was Ken's idea, wasn't it? I can't remember. I think that was Ken's idea.
Next Top Model. And whilst I love the show so much, especially the makeovers, I always knew the show.
Many cooks in the kitchen. Here's the problem. If it was just Tyra's show, she was like the one running it, and it was run on her network, which is one of the things that Oprah did, right? She started her own network so that she could have full control over what was actually said and done, because she also understands that the network has a say and starts directing things as well, right? You got to own the whole thing, or else you essentially own nothing, and other people can come in and tell you what you're going to do, right? Muddy the waters. Tyra was the face, but when it comes to the operation, there were a lot of people that she had to keep in the loop. Apparently, so many people, she only owns, I say only, that's quite a bit, but like 25% of the business globally. So I'm like, that's quite a lot, but at the same time, who's taking the rest, right? So in that, she's got a lot of people to please. A lot of people to please. Yet in this documentary, it's all Tyra did this, Tyra did that. And I'm just like, I need us to work out what she actually did, though. I need to know what was her, what was Ken, what was the network, what was the narrative spinner, I need to know so I can make a clear assessment, because everything apparently was Tyra, but she only owns 25% of the business overall. So who were the other people? Because they haven't been mentioned here at all, right? Tyra didn't truly run things. They eventually let her go too. Exactly. They eventually let her go too. So again, she got sacked halfway through. Why is her name dragged through all of this like she's the only person, she's it? That is my problem with this whole situation. Not that she's not narcissistic, not that she's been fair the whole time, but let's be real. She is not the owner and driver of this situation. And maybe she ran away to Australia and made ice cream because she literally couldn't take it anymore, having to compromise what she actually was trying to do in the situation. She probably couldn't take it, that what it turned into. But then again, I say that, I can't be, wait, let's roll it back. Because didn't she just advertise the next season on the documentary? Yeah, it's given unhinged. Let me pull that little bit back. She's obviously not that distressed because she's willing to go again. But yeah, it's not all her, is my point.
It was problematic. I would watch things and think, can we, okay then. But you guys feel free. So yes, it's healing, because I'm glad I get to finally talk about it. Anyway, feel free to let me know if you even want me to debrief the next 2 episodes. That's okay. I won't be offended. You know, this is long anyway. But if not, you guys let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts?
I like her. She's entertaining. All right. Okay. Next one. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you like it, subscribe to this channel and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. I'm going to start giving you new videos on the main feed as well. I'm going to start filming this week for some new content for you guys. Get those videos on the main feed up and running, hopefully as of next week. Ooh, I forgot about The Biggest Loser. Yes! Oh my gosh, what they did on The Biggest Loser was scandalous. I remember watching a documentary about how they were starved and mistreated. It was crazy. That was crazy. And they ended up putting on one of the guys who was the guy who won The Biggest Loser of one of the season, ended up putting on twice as much weight, and it was crazy. They had them doing all kinds of unethical things to lose weight. We all went in a month. Oh, wait a minute, I can't read. Hang on. We all went in a few months ago and gave them all the heat for how contestants were treated. Yeah, I saw that. Reiterating that Tyra isn't the only one. Yeah, exactly. She isn't. And you've got to understand there's a whole machine behind her. It's not just Tyra. Again, I'm starting to sound like I'm defending her. This was not my intention at all. If you read my post, it's not my intention. Let me be clear. She's highly narcissistic. She's detached from her emotions. I believe it comes from trauma, but who cares? It doesn't matter where it comes from. It's toxic, right? I don't mean who cares about the trauma. I mean who cares in regards to where it comes from is irrelevant when it comes to toxic behavior is what I mean. Let's keep going.
On Netflix, and I have a lot of thoughts. Too many to completely share here, so stay tuned for my YouTube video on the subject. But I left thinking two things about Tyra Banks. Number one, she is absolutely certifiably insufferable. Like somebody who I would pay money to not sit beside on an airplane. When you call and you say who all gonna be there, if they say Tyra Banks, you say I'm not coming. And it was so disheartening because as a teenager, I so desperately wanted to be a model. And there were a few Black women in that space. Naomi Campbell did not seem relatable, but there was something about Tyra Banks that did. And so it took me a minute to truly to have my fave be toppled. I'm just gonna be honest. But no one is above reproach. And her lack of accountability and her performative personality, it's not funny, it's not cute. She was just lying. Insufferable. The second word to describe her is narcissistic. She created an entire show to get people to be like her. And when they weren't, she punished them. She created an entire universe that existed around a modeling industry that she herself said time and time again was problematic. Yet she profited from the show, the universe, the brands that were an extension of it. I even heard she had an MLM makeup brand that I didn't know about. This woman made so much money rooted in her self-image. And I'm not in the business of really dragging Black women who are operating within white supremacist conditions and power structures, right? Like, we get that Tyra Banks didn't create beauty standards. But also, when are you going to do the work to decide?
And you've got to understand that the powers that be wanted the they don't want to demystify, they don't want to clean up the messages. They want the messages as they are, because those messages go out to the general public as well. It's not just about the models. The models are used to give a message to us, the everyday person, about ourselves, keeping us insecure. That can't be cleaned up by Tyra or anybody, as far as they're concerned. How dare you? We need to keep consumerism going. We need to keep these people insecure about themselves and their body and their image so that they keep on buying stuff. That is the industry. So of course they're going to take on her idea and ruin it, quite frankly.
Dismantle them, because that's what you told us. Now, we was there. You say you was gonna produce models in different bodies, but then you told Kenya that she was fat and ugly.
And these toxic systems love a good virtue signaling, right? They love something that sounds like that, and they love to intercept the virtue with their toxicity. So she was a great target. Oh, Vlad, you want to change that? I love that. Tell the world that you want to change the industry with this show, and then we're going to pollute it with industry standards. Yeah, carry on. That's what they're thinking, right? That's how they're doing it. But let's keep going.
And Janice Dickinson said it, but then y'all aired it, and you was the producer. So then, did you agree with it? And then when you cut her, you told her she was fat. Yeah. You made Danielle. This was a child. Made Danielle close her gap after she told you she didn't want to do it. Right, so is you
Let's keep going. We've covered that one. Next.
Because what do you mean at the end of this documentary?
This guy, I've seen the whole of this one because it's very short. It's quite amusing.
Tyra Banks is my favorite supervillain because what do you mean at the end of this documentary, after detailing all the abuse, trauma, and war crimes you basically put these models in, you announce a new cycle of America's Next Top Model. Like that was supposed to be the move. Read the fucking room, Tyra Banks. Miss J just told us that you'd even visit her after she had a stroke and she don't even want to see you.
And this is the reason why I think that they didn't tell her the whole story, because she didn't read the room, right? They probably encouraged her to promote the show because let's keep going.
Like you literally filmed Shandy being and then spun it in a way that this girl cheated on her boyfriend because she was extremely intoxicated and was taken advantage of. And as a child, you know, I did not understand those nuances because when America's Next Top Model came out, I was 11. So in a sense, me thinking out loud, Tyra Banks helped perpetuate the ideology of rape culture in our societies back in 2003 after, you know, videoing, filming, and orchestrating some of these things that came up when it came to Shandy. On top of that, you made her...
Wow, I didn't hear that part. I thought I watched the whole thing all the way through, but yeah, he makes a very good point. So not only did that program perpetuate stereotypes and stuff like that, it also rape culture as we know it today.
On film, call her boyfriend, which because they could have cut that out. And he basically ripped. On top of that, you made her on film call her boyfriend, which because they could have cut that out. And he basically rips her to shreds and call her a stupid bitch and all these things. And y'all just like, this is what happens when you cheat. Tyra Banks, you a supervillain. Kiss my fat black ass girl.
Let's keep going. Guys, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.
Shandy Sullivan was a cheater when production put out this narrative that Shandy Sullivan was a cheater when in fact she was raped to prevent a lawsuit. And you can't tell me otherwise. Production saw how much these girls were drinking, did not stop them drinking whatsoever. She had 2 bottles of wine and didn't eat. She definitely blocked out. And production knew this but continued on filming because this is what good TV is. We need the views. They filmed her getting assaulted in the shower and then in the bed. The following day, Tyra takes these girls out and tells them, oh, it's okay to like flirt but not cheat. They were creating so much chaos around this girl that she wasn't even thinking straight. I'm telling you, if she would have actually had a private phone call with her boyfriend, things would have started clicking. This wasn't for good TV. This was to prevent a lawsuit. She could have sued the company for sexual assault, for recording the sexual assault, and causing emotional distress. And that's just one of the horrific stories that I heard during this documentary. And the lack of accountability, it's like, it blows my mind. Season 2025 will be their karma. I guarantee you that.
Like I said at the beginning, I think that, you know, surely the narrative being spun that she was a cheater was probably gaslighting to her. But whether they were doing, like Ty was doing that on purpose, debatable. Debatable. I don't believe that Tyra knew that it was SA. Did they feel uncomfortable about it? Yes. Did they believe that it felt wrong? Yes. Did they believe it was SA? No, I don't believe that. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. When I first started this, I didn't really accept her apology as in what she said. I felt it was like disingenuous, but not from a vibe point of view, but just from the words. But now I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? I think she did the best she could under the circumstances. I mean, she said that she did the best that she could under the... That's the bit that I don't agree with. She didn't do the best that she could. That's a lie. That's where we start lying, because what she did was make drama for her show. She didn't do the best. She said she didn't know she did the best that she could. You didn't do the best that you could, because the best that you could would have been not to put it on air, was to spare her dignity and not make her watch the movie, the footage on her talk show. after when she made it very clear that she didn't want to watch it. That would have been the best that you could do. You didn't do your best at all. So that bit, that last bit, yeah, you're lying. You didn't do your best. You did what worked for you and the network and the show. Which
model told Shandy from Top Model told them and attested to that she was blacked out during what happened to her. She didn't cheat. She was sexually assaulted, and you guys aired that on national television.
Again, we know that, but
atonement. What they want is people do not want genuine atonement. What they want is performative contrition, because the conversation surrounding Tyra Banks in that America's Next Top Model documentary, how she is carrying herself, how she is responding to questions. People are like, oh, she's not really sorry. She's not taking any accountability. She's not apologizing for anything. And I went and watched the documentary myself. And what I noticed more than anything is someone who has received a great degree of media training, and she carries herself very well. And I personally really appreciated the way she has responded to the question.
I personally thought she was trying to avoid a lawsuit. Her answers were very political. You know what I mean? What she gave.
But people do not feel it is genuine, or the responses that I'm seeing from a lot of people, they do not feel she is being genuine or taking accountability. And this is because
she would be right, because there was another woman, another influencer on TikTok going, can we help Shandy sue America's Next Top Model for what they did? So she would have been right in her way of thinking, as in, I need to be careful what I say because it could put us in legal jeopardy. Do you know what I mean?
She is not performing accountability. She is not performing.
Let's take this back because I keep interrupting. Sorry.
Is someone who has received a great degree of media training, and she carries herself very well. And I personally really appreciated the way she has responded to the questions, but people do not feel it is genuine, or the responses that I'm seeing from a lot of people, they do not feel she is being genuine or taking accountability. And this is because she is not performing accountability. She is not performing apologeticness the way people have formed in their mind in order for someone to be genuinely sorry for something on their terms. When people apologize for something, a lot of us want people to display a sincere amount of, sympathy, and whether it's someone crying or falling over themselves or constantly apologizing, there is a level of performance that we want to see when somebody is apologizing for something in order for us to believe they're genuinely sorry. It's not even in just how you apologize, because we all know that, oh, if I offended you or if I made you feel this way, that has no place in an apology. Listening to what Tyra is saying, to me, it is clear she is taking accountability for the things she feels she did wrong, where she could have stepped in, and the things that she could have changed, and to the things that she does not feel she is responsible for or needs to take any accountability for. She, to me, I think did a very good job of being very clearly like, I can understand where they're coming from. Tyra, however, has served as a really good scapegoat for this show, despite all of the judges being absolutely terrible and demonic in their own ways. And as a result, a lot of these judges are getting a pass for demonic and terrible behavior they engaged with themselves. Mona Abdi, she interviewed Mr. J and Nigel, and something she talks about in the video she posted on her page is she said that Mr. J said he wished Tyra would have been more vulnerable. That desire for her to be more vulnerable, what would that vulnerability look like? Because here's the thing. Tyra's vulnerability, the vulnerability that Mr. J wanted to see, it would not have changed anything, because people have already demonized her, villainized her, and she's been positioned as a perfect scapegoat for everything that has happened on this show. And that level of vulnerability would not have served anyone. If anything, people would have just used that as an opportunity to kick her down even more. If she got up there and cried, it would be like, oh, now you're crying? You have no right to cry because you sat here and you did da-da-da-da-da-da. You shouldn't be crying about anything. You don't deserve to cry. If she sat up there and apologized, it wouldn't have been enough to people, because we did hear her apologize and it still wasn't enough to people. So I genuinely feel there is no way Tyra could have showed up on this documentary and have it change anybody's mind about her. If you already felt a certain way about Tyra before watching this documentary, nothing about the documentary would have made you feel any level of empathy for her. It would not have made you understand her, or it would not have clarified anything for you. If anything, I think this documentary has only solidified what people have already thought about Tyra, and no amount of vulnerability on her end would have changed that. If anything, I think this is just another way to humble Black women, because we understand that we cannot operate in this society with a level of softness, and our emotions are always being policed. So I would much rather have Tyra showed up the way she did, calm, cool, collected, poised, taking accountability for the things she felt she should have taken accountability for, and acknowledging everyone's complaints, rather than sitting up there crying because, unfortunately, women of color, specifically Black women, are not able to weaponize tears the way our white and non-Black counterparts are. So Tyra being vulnerable would not have served her.
What do you think? Thoughts? This was a good perspective that she's given. I thought so. I mean, I didn't listen to the whole thing, to be honest, but I was like, at the beginning, I was like, okay, she's got another perspective that I think is interesting, so I'm just going to play it and see what I think. I initially, when I like downloaded this one, I was like, I don't really agree, and now I kind of agree with what she's saying to a larger extent, right? I don't think it was all her. I think that she was a largely scapegoated in this situation. Is she a perfect person? No. Is she toxic? Absolutely. Is she traumatized? 110%. And toxic is toxic. We're not making any excuses for toxic. Doesn't even matter where it came from. There. What do you mean by there? I'm not understanding. Please elaborate. Right, shorts thing, reminding you about our recovery program, the Live More Academy, the School of Empowerment and Recovery for Women, has a recovery program. The Just Recovery option helps you recover from the symptoms of trauma, anxiety, depressive mood, angry outbursts, harsh inner critic that can really impact your self-esteem and all of that stuff, poor boundaries, codependency, anxious attachment. And then we go through the 7 essentials of real self-love, because there's a lot going on and we need to rebuild all of that to make you more resilient and a harder target for toxic, narcissistic, and abusive dynamics moving forward. Because once you've been in a toxic situation, it does make you more vulnerable to other situations. You can sign up today for just £55 a month. Why is it so cheap? Because it's real education, therapy, and coaching at an affordable price. That is the intention of the Live and Warrior Academy. Live and Warrior Academy from the very beginning. That has always been the intention. I'm very happy with the program. The women who have been on the program are very happy with the program. You can read the testimonials in the on my website. Link in the description box. That's it. You can sign up. You can sign up and you can cancel at any time. £55 a month. You're getting the real deal. Anyway, let's keep going. In conclusion, I think she is all the things: traumatized and narcissistic. And I am always saying that you can't, like I was saying, you can't stay in a toxic situation without becoming toxic to a certain extent yourself. Does that mean that you weren't a victim? Absolutely not. You were still the victim of that situation. You were still a target of that situation. The perpetrator is the one that maintains the power in that situation. Whether you're fighting back or not doesn't make you the one suddenly in power. You can fight back in a situation where you are disempowered and continue to be disempowered. Does that make sense? So just because you become toxic in the situation doesn't make you any less of a victim. Let's be clear, okay? Just need to clarify that, because I don't want anybody taking this information and twisting it and being like, yeah, we're just as bad as each other, which is what the narcissist will do. Be like, oh yeah, you're toxic too as well, so we're just as bad as each other. We're giving as good as we're getting. No, we're not. No, because I'm punching up to try and get my control back. You're punching down. We're not the same people. This is not the same situation, right? I'm fighting for my life. You're fighting to keep me in bondage. These are two very different things going on, right? So be clear. However, when it comes to toxic behavior, toxic is toxic, okay? So if you're in a situation where you're exposed to somebody who is toxic because they have been through trauma, it doesn't mean that you should expose yourself to that. That's where toxic becomes toxic. That's where it becomes toxic is toxic. When you meet someone, they've gone through a traumatic situation, but then they're unhealed, and then they come to you with that toxicity. That's where you go, hang on, I'm sorry about your past, but toxic is toxic. Okay? Because that toxic will mess you up too. It's like a virus. I don't want you to pick up the virus. Do not give anybody grace when it comes to this. Because once infected, it takes a lot of work. Okay? It takes a lot of work to regulate your nervous system, to regulate your emotional setting, your emotional and psychological work. All of that takes work. So just if you can, just avoid it. Do not make yourself a target having sympathy and trying to coax someone else back to health, because that's codependent behavior anyway, by the way. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I think she is narcissistic. I think she's traumatized. I think she's all the things. I think there are elements where she behaves in very toxic ways, but I also think it's not surprising considering she's in a very, very toxic environment. I hope that made sense, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Next week, we'll have a completely different topic. I know that I have got a video planned for Fantasia's husband, who did a response. I'm going to do a red versus green flags on that response that he gave, because I honestly listened to it. I was like, wait, no. Wait, no. It was like that the whole way. So I thought, you know what, rather than do like a normal kind of like video about it, I'm going to do red versus green flags and see which one wins out in the end. I think red flags is going to win out in the end. However, don't quote me. We're going to do the video and see. And we're also going to talk about we've got Blueface and Nevaeh. Someone was asking why, because apparently they're back together. Someone was asking why they were back together. I'm about to answer that question. And apparently Chris Brown has got into it with one of the exes. Going to talk about that. A lot of stuff going on. I agree with her being all the things. Yeah, she's all the things at this point. There's a lot of stuff going on. I hope to put out some videos this week about everything that's going on. And yeah, until the next time, guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking with me, especially during the blackout. I don't know what happened to the internet there. I don't know what happened, honestly. I don't know. But I went and it just turned itself back on. I don't know how that shut out, honestly. But we're back again. So thank you for sticking with me. Please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I go live, which is every Sunday. And you get a notification every time I upload a new video, which will be soon, right? Also some reruns of some old lives that we did, or little snippets of stuff like that, within that being reposted, because I just don't feel like a lot of people were able to see that. So hopefully it'll recirculate and have more of an audience. We'll see about that. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for having the discussion. And until the next time, guys. Oh, wait, no, of course, I don't have my outro here because the whole thing shut down. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Let's do this right. Okay. I hate when that's the one thing that's really annoying about these situations. When it cuts out. All right, guys. Thanks, and until next time, live boldly, live empowered, live from the inside out. Bye for now.
Trauma recovery. It was love and all the above, but you wanna suffer. Trauma recovery. Yeah, trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery.